the sun will come out tomorrow.
For people with failure, tomorrow is not a given. But Entresto is a medicine that helps make more tomorrows possible.
Tomorrow, tomorrow.
I love you, tomorrow.
In the largest heart failure study ever, Entresto helped more people stay alive and out of the hospital than a leading heart failure medicine. Women who are pregnant must not take Entresto. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or Aliskir. If you've had angioedema while taking an ACE or ARB medicine, don't take Entresto. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high potassium in your blood.
Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow.
Ask your doctor about Entresto and help make tomorrow possible.
You're only a day away.
Everyone has got a dream. You know what I mean?
Hey, is this our turn? Honey, our turn?
Yeah, we go left right here.
Great adventures are still out there. We'll find them in our Subaru Outback.
Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Get 0% APR financing for 63 months on all new 2017 Outbacks. Ends August 31st.
More dermatologists recommend Cetaphil for sensitive skin. Its pH-balanced formula cleanses gently for healthy skin. Women recommend Cetaphil because of how it makes them feel. Healthy skin is beautiful. Cetaphil.
And these are the ones. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Honey, honey, honey. At our house, we need things that are built to last. That's why we got a Subaru.
Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Get 0% APR financing for 63 months on all new 2017 Legacies. Ends August 31st.
Look, isn't that Frank Thomas?
Oh, the big hurt.
More like the big hunk.
Yeah.
Wow, Frank Thomas.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You look like you could still be playing. That's what I said.
Well, I am feeling stronger and leaner.
So, Frank, what's your secret?
I discovered Nugenics.
I wish my husband did.
It's easy. Just send a text.
If you're a guy over 40, text 321321 and enter the word FAN to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenics is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels, to help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, more passion, too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it, too.
Text 321321 and enter FAN to get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics. Samples are not available in stores, so text 321321 and enter FAN.
When the weather turns serious, the first thing I'm thinking is, how do I communicate the message very clearly to people so they understand what the risk is and how to get through this?
Good evening from Port Lavaca, Texas. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4, the first one to make landfall in Texas in over 50 years, since 1961. That was Carla. Tonight we will await the worst of it here in Port Lavaca. Meanwhile, the eye wall now pounding the beaches in Aransas County, taking aim for Port Aransas, Aransas Pass, and the city of Rockport. All of those areas have been evacuated. Likewise here. Complete evacuation, curfew underway. We've seen very little traffic. I'm almost certain that most of the 12,000 plus residents here in Port Lavaca have headed north or east out of harm's way, maybe up towards Victoria, but that's not even safe, at least from the wind and the ravaging rainfall of Hurricane Harvey. Already here we've had 3.13 inches of rain today, and we had 7/10 overnight. So far, since late last night, we've had 4 inches of rain, and we've got a long way to go. 4 inches so far. That would be a fair amount in a fast-moving hurricane, but this hurricane is slowing down. Remember, rainfall is inversely proportional to the speed. If you double the speed, you cut the rainfall in half, theoretically. Let's bring in Brian Norcross. Brian, here comes another squall right now, getting pelted by this rain, and you also notice how the water continues to rise here in the front of the Holiday Inn. But real quickly, there's their salvation. The hotel was built way, way up. Concrete, steel, and hardy plank. we're not worried at all about the water rise here in Port Lavaca. We are concerned about what's going to take place around the rest of the area that doesn't have this kind of protection in the hours to come.
Yeah, Mike, I think you're going to need that elevation, because when those winds come around, so that they come around from the south, that is going to push that water up there into Lavaca Bay and out of Matagorda Bay down to the south. All right, take a look at the satellite, and we can clearly see what's happening here. And look at a little, you can see the eye is wobbling a little bit, but it's on a track that is going to take it in that direction. And when the center of the eye comes ashore, that is what's called landfall, and that's going to happen in the next couple hours or so. But the strongest part of the storm on the right side here, you can see there's Port O'Connor. Port Lavaca, where Mike is right there. Victoria, right here. If this continues, all those places are going to get a very, very, very hard hit from this hurricane. And by the way, another Hurricane Hunter plane is going out there because the forward motion slowed down enough that they think they can get through it and do their measurements before it actually goes ashore, going past New Orleans now, heading on toward the hurricane. So here's the close-up shot of the radar, and we see that the eye wall is right there over San Jose Island. So this island here is San Jose Island. This island here is Matagorda Island to the north, and that's Mustang Island to the south. So it's the eye wall is now ashore on San Jose Island, and it's going to go across Aransas Sound and into the Rockport area. Is going to get nailed by this hurricane here, and it is imminent as it moves on in. Let's look at the 3D view, where what the computer does is it looks at the most intense parts of the returns from the radar and then makes them vertical like that. And the higher they are, the more intense they are. And you can see that intense eye wall is just over the barrier island there. We can also see that, let me maneuver this a little bit, and I want to show you where Mike Seidel is there, back in Port O'Connor, and see Port O'Connor there, and then he's in Port Lavaca. So let me show you where that is. That's right there. Okay, keep an eye on that spot there, and then we move this back, and you'll see that there's a band here just outside the eye wall, and another one, and there's a broken one about Port Lavaca right now. So kind of a neat thing that we can use this radar to really see where these enhanced bands are. Now compare that here to Corpus Christi, and you see that the yellows here are well outside of Corpus Christi, and so where Jim Cantore is, these yellows here are going to come around. They're not done with this by any means, but the hurricane is edging slowly farther away from Corpus Christi as it heads a little bit of an angle off to the northeast. So as we saw, so let's reorient you here now. Matagorda Island to the north, San Jose Island to the south. The eye wall of the hurricane is right here. So here's the onshore push of water here, and that is going to push water here into Matagorda Bay, into Aransas Bay, and when the wind direction comes from the south, it's going to push it up toward Port Lavaca, and that's why I say Mike Seidel is going to need that high elevation there, and that's why the National Hurricane Center, see the reds up in here, reds up in here, reds all around here. That's 9 to 12 feet above ground for the water with waves on top of that. Port Lavaca is a high place, so that's why you see the blues kind of under Port Lavaca there. So maybe 1 to 3 feet above ground is seems to be the reasonable worst case for Port Lavaca. All right, let's we've talked so much with justification about this imminent landfall, but we cannot forget that this storm is forecast to move very slowly inland, so that it's somewhere in the vicinity, plus or minus, of Victoria tomorrow afternoon. So the idea is this is going to slow down significantly, and this rain is going to continue. That's tomorrow. Now look at this. Still, the model indication is that it's going to stay in this general area of the coastal bend of Texas, maybe up toward Houston. Don't look at the exact line. That's not what's important. What's important is it's going to continue to rain in an area around the hurricane and to the east, and that rain is going to continue, the best that we know, all the way into the middle of next week, and perhaps even more than that. Still forecasting incredible rain amounts, disastrously flooding rain, we think, in Texas. All right, back to Jim Cantore in Corpus Christi. Jim, take it away, top of the hour.
All right, Brian, we got some hurricane force gusts here, and we continue to see the winds now still up 50, 65 miles per hour here. This may be what we're going to get with here in Corpus Christi. Guys, please take the mix minus out of my ear. Please do that if you're back at the Weather Channel. Thank you. All right, stick around, guys. We got much more coming up. Mike Seidel is going to join us as well as we begin a new hour here on the Weather Channel. We're not going to give up with Harvey. We got crews all over Texas and even Louisiana pre-positioned to cover this thing for you as we continue to watch it roll in tonight. Really looking at the radar here, it looks like Rockport is going to absolutely take it on the chin. The last gust we've had at Rockport is 83 miles per hour. 83 miles per hour. They are just about to get in to the eye wall in Rockport as this thing continues to just drift to the north. So moving slow now, as Brian said. It looks like it's going to just make its way inland, maybe as far west as Victoria, which isn't very far west at all. It's about maybe 50 miles or so, if you will, from the coastline, from the exact coastline. But then it takes a turn and starts to head back or drift back, as is in the case in through here. Meanwhile, all these areas start getting rain later tonight. San Antonio, they're already getting in some places. San Antonio, Austin, up in toward Houston area, the Houston metropolitan area getting as well. So we have to watch this. Multiple floods are possible for the city of Houston. We just don't know how this is all going to play out. It's unforecastable by the computer models to tell us exactly where these bands are going to set up. Again, guys, my producer Steve Peterak did go down. And look at the Enterprise. It's right there. The Enterprise roof collapse, as was reported. It's really kind of an awning, it looks like, that has collapsed, a metal awning that has collapsed, as opposed to an entire infrastructure concrete roof. So I wanted to report that to you. That's what we've got. We do have some street signs that have come down as well. We can actually show you some video of that maybe a little bit later on. But you know, think about the wind it takes to push over a street sign, a heavy street sign. It takes a lot of energy. So we've had hurricane force gusts here in Corpus Christi, but this will not be Celia like we had back in 1970 with 125. All right, let's go up the road a piece by about an hour as the crow flies, or as you get on the roads. This is Mike Seidel in Port Lavaca. Mike, I guess the biggest thing that you've noticed is a little increase in the wind, but more of an increase in the water, right?
Yeah, the water is really now piling up here. This is Lavaca Bay out here, and get a sense of these waves now just coming over, and the seawall's just about been covered up. You can't see it anymore. There was plenty of seawall earlier. This is the front patio, and the wind picking up the water off the top of the waves. This whole area now underwater. It'll be interesting to see how high the water does rise. It's already come up at least 2 to 3 feet, I would estimate. That's not official, but estimation. And the rainfall I mentioned earlier, I just added up the rainfall just today alone. Since this morning, we've had about 3.13, if my math is right, 3.13 inches since this morning. We had another 0.7 of an inch last night, so we're almost to 4 inches of rain, and we have got a long way to go. I mean, we've got all night tonight and tomorrow, and then we're going to have rain into the middle part of next week. So you can just imagine the rainfall totals when we've already almost had 4 inches, and we haven't even taken the brunt in those bands around the eye wall, the outer eye wall, where you get the really heavy rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches an hour. The winds here sustained about 35 miles an hour. We've got some protection. I want to show you, I've gotten a lot of text and talk on social media. Be safe. Are you going to be okay? We are. This balcony, we're about 15 to 16 feet above the water level. This hotel was built 6 years ago, and when you build a hotel here in Port Lavaca, near the Gulf of Mexico, right here off the Lavaca Bay, you know you've got to build it sturdy, and they did all they could. This is concrete block here, steel, hard to get a cell phone call out of your room, and then the first level is actually there's no rooms there, and that's hardy plank, and they've got some walls that can blow away, but that's for safety purposes. But there's nothing hanging out here. We don't have any signs hanging that would cause us to be concerned about things blowing around. Now, if you look across Lavaca Bay, there's refineries over there, Port Comfort. I don't know if you can see the lights in the distance, but a sure sign that the power is still on here in this part of Calhoun County, which was under a mandatory evacuation as of late morning. Rainfall now not particularly heavy, but we keep an eye on the radar. And again, the worst is yet to come as far as the heaviest rain and the gusty winds here in Port Lavaca. Jim, Port O'Connor out there on the water on the barrier island, along with Port Aransas Pass, Rockport, all those areas are going to get clobbered, even up towards Palacios. And it'll be interesting to see how high the winds gust in Victoria, because they've already gusted to nearly 50 miles an hour, well ahead of what could be an eye going over Victoria early Saturday morning. Reynolds Wolf will be live on the Weather Channel starting a little after midnight in Victoria. So we'll have the pictures from there. Jim, let me send it back to you in Corpus as we go to darkness here. We get dark here in the area around Port Lavaca. Let's hope the power stays on for everyone tonight, but it seems unlikely that it will.
Michael, we appreciate that report. Again, guys, we're kind of teetering here. We've been very steady, very consistent with 50, 60-mile-per-hour winds, gust occasionally to hurricane force here in Corpus Christi. And this may be some of our worst weather, okay? Especially now as we see the storm heading north. Eye wall looks like it's going to go right in toward Rockport. Let's get the latest on some of the trends that we're seeing with this as this hurricane is going to be making its way ashore. I want to bring in a hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, to talk about this. Dr. Rick, last night, if you were a betting man, did you think that tonight we'd be talking about a landfalling Cat 4?
Well, we were talking about the possibility because yesterday morning when the forecast from the Hurricane Center changed upward after it rapidly intensified as a tropical storm, and the forecast for tonight was for Cat 3, we were talking last night about the possibility of something a little stronger in Cat 4. So a couple of days ago, certainly weren't expecting this, but yesterday this looked like a distinct possibility.
Right. So what are you seeing now on the radar? I mean, we're starting to get into some of this outer eye wall, aren't we, down around near Rockport and Port Aransas?
Yes, we are. You know, again, the landfall of a hurricane is not the landfall of the eye wall. If we look at where the center of the hurricane is, when that crosses the coast, that's when you've got landfall of the hurricane itself. But we do have the northwestern eye wall on land already on San Jose Island, and that is headed toward Rockport. Now, again, the maximum storm surge and the strongest winds might very well be on the right side of the hurricane to the north of wherever it is the dead center comes ashore. So points north from Rockport northward are likely to experience the greatest storm surge. In Corpus Christi, however, on the southern side of the circulation, the storm surge is not going to be as bad as it would be if the center was crossing to your south, Jim.
Dr. Knabb, I was looking at the radar from Radar Scope before I walked out here to do this particular block, and I saw the winds over Rockport at about 2,000 feet, estimated by the radar about 123 miles per hour. How much of that do you think could get down to the surface?
Oh, quite a bit. You know, again, when you look at radar winds, it depends on what altitude the radar beam is striking that band and that area of wind, and then we have to make some adjustments down to the surface. But when you've got maximum winds stronger than that, certainly a lot of that's going to mix down to the surface. And again, I think the strongest winds will be on the right side. And so we probably haven't seen yet the strongest winds we're going to see, the Doppler radar winds from the land-based WSR-88Ds.
All right, let's get into the other side of this. I mean, this is a multi-hazard threat, as we've been talking about for days now. The rainfall has been leading the way all the way, even though that's not, you know, what we're seeing at least imminent right now in terms of flooding, huge widespread flooding everywhere. But that is going to change, Dr. Knabb. When do you expect that to start?
Well, the rainfall is already starting. The storm surge yet hasn't reached its peak. So in both coastal flooding and inland flooding, you know, we haven't reached by any means anywhere near what the peak is going to be. You know, when it comes to the storm surge flooding, it's going to be maximized as the eye wall comes on shore, especially on the right side. And as the storm starts to move farther inland, we will start to see the rainfall rack up farther and farther inland. So points inland, it hasn't started raining yet. It will soon. But if you're in areas where it already has started raining on the coast, this is just the beginning of a multi-day event, Jim. It's really hard to imagine and hard to accept that the rain that is starting now in places like where you're standing, in places between the hurricane and Houston and places inland, that it could rain for days. And as this storm perhaps loops back around, and comes back toward the coast, back up toward Houston as the current forecast shows, that means the current landfall area, where we're going to experience landfall here in the next hour or two, probably, it's going to be a place where it's going to be raining for several days into Tuesday or Wednesday.
It really is absolutely unthinkable in through here. Thank you, Dr. Knapp, for your insight. We will check back in with you again. As again, just to kind of recap here, Dr. Knapp talking about the western eye wall coming on shore near the Rockport area here in Corpus Christi. We are not going to see the eye wall. We've seen, if you will, kind of the second and third tier bands out away from that come through, and that has allowed for winds to gust to 75 miles per hour. But we will not see the eye wall here as everything continues to slowly work its way north. And speaking of north, on the northeast side of our hurricane, we have a lot of east wind, bringing in big waves and a lot of water. And an area that is going to see some of those waves is certainly Galveston. Thank goodness for that seawall. Mike Bettis is in Galveston tonight to report. Mike, give us an idea. Again, Corpus to Galveston is on a 4.5-hour drive as the crow flies. How different is it there than what we're having here?
I mean, listen, the winds are gusty here, no question about that, but we're certainly not going to deal with in Galveston what you're going to deal with closer to the eye. We're about, as the crow flies, about 150 miles away from the eye of Harvey, okay? Now, I'll give you that. I mean, the palms are blowing right now. There could be opportunities for power outages, but as far as what the seawall can do, it can hold back a lot of water. And since we're such a distance from the center of circulation of Harvey, the good news is the water's just splashing up at the bottom of the seawall, okay? That water would have to come up a solid 12 feet to breach the seawall and then come over the street here. And just voluntary evacuations here in Galveston for Harvey. And actually, there's been a decent amount of traffic this evening. You can see folks are out this evening. They're driving around. A lot of the restaurants and businesses are open. The hotels are open. The city services did close down today. But the one real risk that I think we run here in Galveston is tornadoes. We have a tornado watch that goes through the night, that goes until 2 o'clock tonight, and we've actually had 3 tornado warnings in Galveston today. Brazoria and Galveston County have really, I felt like, been the target for tornadoes. I know that Dr. Knapp is still listening in here. Dr. Knapp, it feels like there's been a real concentration of tornadoes in this small area north of the center. Do you think it stays that way tonight?
Very well could. It's very common for tornadoes to occur in the right front quadrant of a landfalling hurricane, and that's exactly where Houston and Galveston are located. So let's paint the bigger picture first. Here's the center of the hurricane just offshore down on the middle Texas coast. Here's Houston and here's Galveston. Now, if we take a look, here's down near Rockport where the eye is. That's not where the tornadoes are occurring. Let's go up to the Galveston area. Here are those bands coming on shore. They're far, far away from the center of the hurricane, but these bands continue to come on shore, and this is where you can get those quick spin-ups. We've got tornado warnings between Galveston and Freeport, and there's more on the way. So it is not a very safe night to be out on the roads because it might be fooling you when it doesn't rain in between the bands, and then you get this nasty band come in, briefly very heavy rain, and a spin up of a tornado. So we mean business with this tornado watch, and these tornado warnings will probably keep coming.
Hey, Dr. Knapp, I wanted to ask you, in respect to where Mike is, do you think it's possible that he has to wait for a potential, if some of the guidance is right, second landfall if it gains strength to get some of the worst weather up there?
Yeah, we have to pay attention to that very carefully because how much we get up in Houston into early next week, in terms of wind and rain, will have something to do with how much time Harvey spends on land versus how much time it spends on water. We can't take this exact forecast track on this white line to the bank. I mean, if it doesn't go this far inland and it comes back farther offshore, then maybe we could end up with something stronger than the 40 to 45 miles an hour on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But again, I don't want to focus too much on the wind and the strength because regardless, you could have the rainfall totals racking up, whether it's a weak tropical storm, a strong tropical storm, or something else. You could still get the feet of rainfall in Houston. So I hope folks in Houston and Galveston don't start to think that if it isn't as strong as they thought it might be, that the rainfall in inland flood hazard is any less. That's still a very life-threatening situation for days to come.
That's exactly what I'm worried about. Some of these areas that are saying, hey, it isn't so bad. We've got a hurricane coming ashore. They're saying it's going to make landfall tonight, but we're not doing too bad. You know why, guys? Is just like Dr. Nab said, it's going to sit here and spin and turn and make its way back to the north. And all we got to do is think back to 2001. Tropical Storm Allison, sitting, spinning, and dumping very, very heavy rain. All those models are still forecasting unthinkable rain. Nothing has changed.
This Labor Day at Enterprise Car Sales. Experience great customer service and get more for your trade August 25th through September 5th. And let Enterprise Car Sales flip your thinking about buying your next vehicle.
I take pictures of sunrises, but with my back pain, I couldn't sleep and get up in time. Then I found Aleve PM.
Aleve PM is the only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
Managing blood sugar is a series of smart choices. And when you replace one meal or snack a day with Glucerna, made with Carb Steady to help minimize blood sugar spikes, you can really feel it. Now with 30% less carbs.
Now at the Honda Summerbration sales event, you can get a great deal on a Honda Accord and make every summer moment that much brighter. Summer fun starts here at the Honda Summerbration sales event. The sun is setting on these amazing deals. Get a Honda Accord today from KBB.com's Best Value brand. Ends September 5th.
With Scotch Blue Platinum Painter's Tape, you can prep any angle quicker and easier. 3M's advanced poly material helps stop paint seepage, and it's easy to remove in one long pull, so you can pull off a better paint job. Scotch Blue Platinum Painter's Tape.
I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, though you make my heart a wreck, make my heart a wreck, and you make my life a mess, make my life a mess, yes, a mess of happiness.
While other insurance companies just see a house, we see the home you've worked really hard for. So why not give it the protection it deserves?
I'm proud of what the Weather Channel is. It's a place you can turn to and trust.
Our team's taking you into the storm with live reports and expertise you won't get anywhere else.
We are meteorologists, and that makes a tremendous difference.
When it comes to a weather situation that warrants attention, we're the place to go. It's that simple.
Introducing the all-new DR Leaf and Lawn Vacuum, now at our lowest price ever. The DR cleans up acres of leaves and grass while you mow. In the spring, collect dead grass, wet leaves, and twigs from storm damage. Come summer, the DR makes a great high-capacity bagger, and in the fall, turns days of raking into a drive in the park. When it's time to unload, nothing could be easier. Look, just one hand. Plus, with the collector top removed, you've got a rugged utility cart that's great for all kinds of hauling chores. The DR is the most powerful, most versatile lawn machine you can buy.
Call 1-800-731-6506 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. Learn how you can qualify for 0% financing and try a DR on your own property for 1 year. Free shipping is now in effect. That's 1-800-731-6506. Online at drleafvac.com.
Every season, every storm, every time you watch, trust in the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 61 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, mainly clear, low 51. Winds light and variable. Saturday, mostly Saturday night, a mostly clear sky, low 52. Winds light and variable. Here's our 7-day outlook.
And good evening, everyone. We are in Corpus Christi, Texas, but up to my north, they are awaiting landfall of Category 4 Harvey. The last Category 4 to make landfall in the United States was Charlie back in 2004. So a big, big storm. We are in hour 10, by the way, here in Corpus Christi of at least tropical storm force gusts. All right, so big, big wind here in terms of the tropical storm force winds. And the fact that this may move north and then come back our way means this may continue for a little bit of a while. Port Aransas has had the highest gust so far at 116. They are getting into the eye wall right now, where we have winds, again, measured by the hurricane hunters, up to about 130 miles per hour, which is from the latest advisory. So this is a wild night here, guys, certainly on the Texas coast. The coastal bend dealing with a lot of water rise in some cases, especially up toward Port O'Connor. Rockport, again, another area besides Port Aransas, taking out the Chin, Victoria. You will see this eventually. Reynolds Wolf is there. We just talked to Mike Bettis in Galveston, and interesting enough, Mike may have to wait a couple of days, depending on what this thing does, to get some of the worst weather. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. It's just unforecastable to know exactly where some of these bands are going to be setting up. All right, let's get a look at what's happening about an hour to my north. This is Port Lavaca, Texas, and Mike Seidel. Mike's a pretty strong wording, especially in the surrounding counties where you are, for people to leave. And that sounds like it was some pretty good advice, especially if people took it.
Indeed, this is not something you want to mess around with, because even inland areas like Victoria are going to get hit with wind gusts that may be clocked over 80, 90 miles an hour later on tonight, overnight, early morning hours. By the way, Reynolds Wolf will be live all night from Victoria, so we'll be on all night. We'll have pictures to show you what's going on there. That is about 30 miles north of here, and we're about 25 miles from the Gulf, so we're talking about 55 or so miles inland from the Gulf, Victoria. Where we are now, we want to give you a sense of how safe we feel. We're underneath the Holiday Inn Express and Suites here in Port Lavaca. So this whole lower level is elevated, kind of like giant stilts, if you may. And so there's nothing down here. There's some storage rooms, some equipment rooms, but everything that matters, all the rooms, the offices are upstairs. So you can see how high the water would have to rise, and it would have to go beyond this. It would have to go up about 15 feet. But it's now come around. The tide has come up. I should say tide, the water rise. There's not much of a tide here, about 6 inches from high to low. The water rise, the surge has come up. It's come around the building. And this right here to my left, that's how you drive up and check into the front door. We may show you that later. And the water flowing into the parking lot. I want to take a run down here. You can see how the water is coming through here, right here under the fence. So you get the flow of water. It's about 4 to 5 inches deep. We've got light here. I want to take you underneath the hotel. Excuse me. And this is how we get inside from underneath and out front. We go up this ramp, and it's also for handicap. And this is the way you drive up. The front is way up there, so you can see how much elevation we have in this hotel. Then we're going to come out here, and as I walk out here, I'm going to lose my wind protection, and it's going to get mighty windy. And when you stand here, I don't know if you can hear it at home, but you can hear the roar, and that's an eerie feeling. You know the winds are picking up that roar around this building. Let's go out here and show you what we've got. I'll keep the Mark Weiss, our photographer, stay right here. I'm going to go out into the brunt of the storm and show you what we have. So this is the wind right now, sustained about 35 miles an hour. We got some higher wind gust, and what you can't see, that's Lavaca Bay and the bridge. But we're getting some very heavy rain now, and as I mentioned earlier, we're pushing 4 inches alone, and we're just, we've got a long, long way to go. So Jim, we're feeling very confident about our safety here. Just have to see how things go overnight tonight.
Dude, you're crunching and scaring the fish.
Dude, they're just jealous.
Kellogg's Raisin Bran Crunch with crunchy clusters and the taste of apples and strawberries.
I got one!
Guess we're having cereal for dinner.
Kellogg's Raisin Bran Crunch Apple Strawberry.
For dry eye relief, doctors may recommend preservative-free drops, but single-dose vials can be a hassle. Try Clear Eyes Pure Relief, the first multi-dose bottle of preservative-free drops, thanks to its purifying filter. Try Clear Eyes Pure Relief.
Coney Island has been around for a long, long time. Reminds me of how Geico has been saving people money for over 75 years.
First date? Hey, big guy, come on in. Let me guess your weight. Win a prize.
Sure, why not?
12 ounces?
Sorry, mate, 4 ounces. I've been taking the stairs lately.
You win, big guy.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Wow, he looks so much more real on TV.
Yeah. Over 75 years of savings and service. Get your rate quote today.
Over 40, feeling tired, losing muscle, and even romantic drive? Man up with Ageless Male. Natural ingredients clinically shown to support energy, promote muscle, and boost free testosterone. Man up with Ageless Male.
Steve was born to move. Over the course of 9 days, he walks 26.2 miles. That's a marathon. Because he chooses to walk whenever he can. And he does it with support from Dr. Scholl's. Only Dr. Scholl's has massaging gel insoles that provide all-day comfort to keep him feeling more energized. So he even has the energy to take the long way home. Keep it up, Steve. Dr. Scholl's, born to move.
Today, we're out here with some big news about type 2 diabetes. You have type 2 diabetes, right?
Yes.
So let me ask you this. How does diabetes affect your heart?
It doesn't, does it?
Actually, it does. Type 2 diabetes can make you twice as likely to die from a cardiovascular event like a heart attack or stroke. And with heart disease, your risk is even higher. You didn't know that? No. Yeah. But wait, there's good news for adults who have type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Jardiance is the only type 2 diabetes pill with a life-saving cardiovascular benefit. Jardiance is proven to both significantly reduce the chance of dying from a cardiovascular event in adults who have type 2 diabetes and heart diseace and lower your A1C.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration. This may cause you to feel dizzy, faint, or lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, and trouble breathing. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of ketoacidosis or an allergic reaction. Symptoms of an allergic reaction include rash, swelling, and difficulty breathing or swallowing. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Other side effects are sudden kidney problems, genital yeast infections, increased bad cholesterol, and urinary tract infections, which may be serious. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you have any medical conditions.
So now you know all that, what do you think?
That it's time to think about Jardiance.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance and get to the heart of what matters.
It's been building up over decades. And through 35 years of severe weather, it's strengthened into trust. Trust in the Weather Channel. To us, nothing matters more. Every season, every storm, every time you watch. Trust the Weather Channel.
And good evening, everyone, from Corpus Christi as we continue to await Category 4 hurricane. The first Category 4 for the Texas coast, believe it or not, since Carla in 1961. And it sure feels like a Category 4, not here in Corpus, but just up to my north, especially in Rockport and Aransas. 117-mile-per-hour gusts. All right, let's go up to Mike Seidel in Port Lavaca. Mike, you're starting to get into some of those more intense bands now.
Yes, indeed, Jim. We are standing out now, full brunt of Harvey, the wind coming across Lavaca Bay to my right, the parking lot filling up with water, and the rain stinging me through my jacket and my shirt. Feels more like a sleet storm in Amarillo in January. Boy, it's really roaring in here right now. This is one of those bands. And again, we've got a long way to go. This thing is not moving very fast. It's slowing down as the eyewall now hits the coast of Aransas County. Aransas Pass, the Rockport area, that whole area is getting crushed. That's where you have the strongest winds, the heaviest rainfall, but the real threat is going to be the wind and the structural damage. We've already had gusts up there just over 100 miles an hour. Look at the rain blowing in the light here in Port Lavaca. The power is still on. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but you know, with this kind of wind, and again, all these trees, especially inland with the rain and the wind, easily for them to be uprooted. And the other issue is most hurricanes, tropical storms move in, move out, power crews are in place, they come in, get the bucket trucks back up, and boom, the power's back on, maybe in a few days at most. but this wind's going to stay up, and if they can't get up into their bucket trucks, the power's going to be off for quite a while. Fortunately, it is summertime and not the winter, so you don't have to worry about needing heat or portable heaters and that whole issue. We're going back to Jim Cantore right now. Is that the word? Okay, let's bring in Dr. Knabb, Dr. Rick Knabb, our former Weather Channel hurricane expert, then went to the Hurricane Center, now back, and we're happy to have him with us and his expertise. Dr. Knabb, what are you thinking about here in Port Lavaca about being clipped by the eastern side of the eye wall from Harvey?
Well, I think you're on the side of the hurricane that could bring storm surge into your area. Again, Port Lavaca itself a little bit elevated, and I'll show you on the potential storm surge flooding map what we think are the hottest spots for the storm surge. But just to orient you, here's Port Lavaca up in here, and the eye of the hurricane down here offshore from Rockport and San Jose Island. So this is the area in which you're going to have really strong onshore flow, and it's not just going to be the barrier islands that experience the storm surge flooding. It's going to be getting into the bays and into areas that are not along the immediate Gulf Coast. So let's take a look at generally what are the storm surge values above normally dry ground. This is inundation, flooding from storm surge that's anticipated. In the Port Lavaca area, points south from there, 9 to 13 feet, and then 6 to 12 feet in Port Lavaca and Matagorda Bay. And those are just the anticipated values, that could be reached somewhere in those areas. Now, to get a little bit more specific, here is the potential storm surge flooding map from the Hurricane Center. Again, here is the immediate Gulf Coast. Here's Port O'Connor, and here we go into the bay that the water will be pushed up bay and going many miles inland from the immediate coastline. Now, if you can tell, Port Lavaca right here, the values aren't nearly as high above normally dry ground in that area because Port Lavaca, the city itself, is slightly elevated. But the values in other places get to be in these orange and reds, 6 to 9 or 9 feet or greater above ground. So it really does have to do with how high the ground gets as it leaves the water, and then how much the wind is able to push the salt water up onto ground, how far inland from the water, the line where it usually is, and then how high above ground. So there are a lot of areas here that are going to get several feet of storm surge because this is going to be the onshore flow side of the hurricane. However, where Jim Cantore is down in Corpus Christi, it's a little bit different story. With him being farther to the south and west, he'll be on the opposite side of where the eye comes ashore, and that puts a lesser storm surge issue to your area, Jim.
Yeah, so what we've been watching, Dr. Knabb, is you've got Nueces Bay and also Corpus Christi Bay behind me here, and the winds have been paralleling and almost a little bit offshore. I mean, the wind's been pushing the water back out, so we never got any kind of a storm surge component here right along the seawall, which is obviously great news because storm surge, is an awful thing. But as you mentioned, on the east side, Mike and I are essentially goalposts. All right, so I'm the left goalpost, and Mike is the right goalpost at Port Lavaca. He may take a little bit of the eastern eye wall. I didn't get into the western eye wall at all, and I won't. But we're the goalpost, so it's going to come right up in toward Rockport and Port O'Connor and those areas, and then head inland toward Victoria. And there's going to be a lot of changeable weather there. All right, you're going to take winds out of the northeast, and very, very gusty, as we've seen already in Port Aransas at 117 miles an hour. And then you get into that eye, and it's an absolutely eerie calm, and I mean, you can hear crickets, you can literally smell. Sometimes if there's a fire, you can smell the fire. All the smoke gets trapped in there, and then you have to deal with the other side of the storm. So winds will shift from the complete opposite direction, and sometimes the back edge eye wall can be even a little bit stronger. Dr. Knabb, do you think we're going to have an equal opportunity for these winds to be strong around the center, or do you think one particular side of the eye wall favors some of those strong winds?
Well, Jim, it's almost always the case that the stronger side of the hurricane is going to be near and to the right of where it comes ashore. And that would be in this area, Rockport area, San Jose Island, and northeastward. But you can have, and we can see some evidence of this on radar, you can have some elements in the eye wall that rotate around, and you can get, especially once the eye starts to, and the eye wall start to interact with land, you can get some convergence that can spin up some strong mesoscale vortices, some smaller scale spin-ups that can ramp up the winds and cause some localized damage on just about any side of the eye wall. Of course, every part of the eye wall is going to have hurricane force winds. It's just a matter of where the strongest winds are, and those would be on the right-hand side, Jim. We're having trouble hearing Jim with all of the wind he's experiencing, and that's understandable given trying to do a live shot from here. But where he is, again, is south and west of where the center of the hurricane is. He's not on the strongest side of the hurricane. Doesn't mean he's not getting strong winds. He certainly is, certainly tropical storm force. And then on the other side of the hurricane, the onshore flow side, the stronger side, this is where Mike Seidel is up in Port Lavaca. He's not on the immediate coastline of the Gulf of Mexico, but he's on a bay in Port Lavaca. And Mike Seidel, what are you experiencing now? We're seeing that the winds are sustained at tropical storm force, and you're on a slightly elevated area compared to surrounding spots. What are you seeing in terms of wind and water?
Dr. Knabb, we've seen the water continuously rise around the hotel, but again, the hotel is built way up, so there's no living space until you get about 16 to 17 feet up above the parking lot, and the parking lot is above a seawall, so we're nicely elevated. We feel very confident we're going to be okay here. We've got a nice, strong, sturdy steel concrete hardy plank building that was built with good specs because it was built 6 years ago, and they're not going to build something on Lavaca Bay in this day and age that can't withstand this kind of weather. Although it's been a long time since they've had a hurricane impact here. 70, we had Celia, but really the locals talk about Carla in 1961. They did have a mandatory evacuation back with Ike 9 years ago, but Ike went north to the Bolivar Peninsula, north of Galveston, and we know what happened there, and they were spared here. Boy, look, can you hear that wind? Woo! And I mean, this is about as strong as we've seen so far. Boy, that had to be pushing 50, 55 miles an hour. Got to keep the center of gravity low. It's the Seidel lean, as they say at the Weather Channel. I don't weigh much. I don't want to blow down the street here, but you can just sense the power of this hurricane as it comes on shore. Now the water's coming up, Dr. Knabb, and it's going to stay up, and the real concern is how long do we stay with the onshore winds? Now Jim's winds are offshore because he's on the other side of the hurricane, but we're going to be onshore winds for a while because it's not moving. Typically a hurricane, tropical storm moves in, moves out. You get the offshore flow, and I saw that with Floyd in 99. I took the eye in Wilmington right on the intercoastal, and the water came in and then it went right back out. So that's not the situation here. This water is going to stay up for a while. Plus you throw on top all this rainwater. So we're getting inundated by seawater and rainwater here in these coastal communities. And I tell you, this wind is really ripping right now here in Port Lavaca. Keep in mind, we're 25 miles from the Gulf, but there's not a lot to slow the wind down because it's all water between here and Port O'Connor and the very warm Gulf of Mexico. Water temps mid to upper 80s, helping to fuel a Category 4 hurricane, our first one to make landfall since Carla in 1961. You can try to stay with me here. I still feel safe. You know, you worry about blowing objects, but the only thing that can hit me right now is water. Basically is water. There's nothing upwind from me except some palm fronds, maybe a palm frond or two, but I'm not worried about debris blowing around. But we're really taking this band pretty good right now. Woo! And look at the wave action. But we've got a lot of elevation here. Highway 35 is still fine. That's elevated even higher than we are, and that would be the main route that way back towards Houston should we have to get out of here in the next couple of days. That was one concern I had, was the water would stay up and shut off the exit routes, either US 87 north of Victoria or 35 back towards Palacios. But so far so good, but we have a long way to go, Dr. Knabb, and I think we're going to see winds even stronger than this in the next few hours here in Port Lavaca.
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to point out a couple things and emphasize a couple points you just made. First of all, you were talking about how you're going to be in onshore flow for a considerable amount of time, and that is absolutely correct, because again, here's the hurricane and the eye and the eye wall. Port Lavaca is up here, and as Mike said, many miles from the immediate Gulf Coast. And as this continues to move northwestward and slows down, it's going to keep Mike and Port Lavaca and surrounding areas in the stronger side of the hurricane, the onshore flow side, and you will get the water rise to keep increasing the closer the strongest part of the hurricane gets. So water rise will continue to increase, and the longer the water pushes from the Gulf of Mexico into the bay, the more the water will pile up, even if the hurricane doesn't move a whole lot. Just the continued onshore flow will increase the water levels, and you'll continue to get hours and hours and hours of tropical storm and then hurricane force winds. But Mike, I wanted to ask you, you've got view of the roads there. What is your sense in terms of how many people have gotten out? Do we have any people that you know of that are still in danger in areas prone to storm surge there?
What I think you asked me is about how many people have evacuated. Most of this town is out of here. The people we talked to yesterday were heading out. We saw a lot of folks here on the beaches with campers. They were pulling out to higher ground. We saw a lot of houses and buildings either boarded up or being boarded up last night at dinner time. This town is pretty much emptied out, and for good reason. There's about 12,500 people in Port Lavaca, and this, whoa, we just, something just blew on by. Not sure what that was. Maybe something off the roof, maybe a shingle or something, but I'm pretty certain that this town is pretty empty. After talking to the mayor yesterday and the law enforcement too, they have gone around knocking on doors, trying to get everybody to go. They didn't, you don't have to leave, and if you didn't leave, they, requested that they have contact information next to kin in that matter. But again, the roadway 35 is still fine. The water has not come up that high, and get a sense here, we're 3 or 4 inches of water here in the parking lot. And the waves over the seawall in the front, we'll go back around front at some time this evening, around towards the bay, and show you what it looks like there. But again, the hotel built way up here, but this wind now is unrelenting. It certainly has ramped up, sustained now 40 to 45 miles an hour. Some of those gusts, boy, they just cut right through you, Dr. Nav. I would suspect some of these gusts now have pushed at least 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, and Mike, I can show folks.
Only to get worse here as the storm crawls onshore tonight and Saturday morning.
Yep, and we can see the radar combined with the wind observations. Of course, these are just point observations. This doesn't represent what everybody's getting, but we are seeing gusts around 50 miles per hour in Port Lavaca, sustained at tropical storm force. Closer to the Gulf beaches, the gusts are up at 65 miles an hour at Port O'Connor, and this is an outer band as compared to the eye wall. So what Mike is experiencing is not the eye wall, but he's experiencing a very strong band that obviously has sustained winds of tropical storm force, and those winds will get stronger as this part of the band makes its way up to Port Lavaca as the hurricane comes ashore. Now again, on the southwestern and western side where Jim Cantori is, he's getting sustained winds of tropical storm force there too. It just won't be on the strongest side. Jim, how's it looking to you there right now?
Yeah, I mean, occasionally we'll get some heavy downpours, and those winds will just push you and pound down on you. And I mean, we're easily into the 50s, 60s here with these gusts. Our max gust, I think, is about 75 miles an hour at the Naval Air Station. But Dr. Nav, I wanted to ask you, in terms of the hurricane hunters, how long do they fly into the center? How long do they make a pass into the center? Is it right before landfall or just before?
Well, typically they'll keep flying in and out of it as long as the center is offshore, and they may even continue to fly parts of the eye wall that are offshore. It's still important to continue to get data on how strong the hurricane is, how large the wind field is, because we know that this is not the end of the event. when the center of the hurricane comes ashore. This is very much the beginning of the event in many ways, and we still have to make 5-day forecasts from the Hurricane Center, and the Hurricane Hunter data feeds into that. And sometimes, especially when you've got bays involved, they can follow the center a little bit after it crosses a barrier island if they feel they can do it safely, but they're not going to follow it way inland.
Is there any plan to sample the atmosphere a little more than normal over the next several days, with maybe drops, balloons from Weather Service offices to get an idea of what the atmosphere is, especially in the intermediate runs? Oh gosh, yes. I mean, the Weather Service forecast offices around the country send out more frequent, instead of twice a day, 4 times a day, upper air balloon launches, and that will continue to be a beneficial thing to do, not just for getting more data into the models in the days to come, but for the humans to get more frequent observations about what the structure is in the atmosphere, because we still got many days ahead, and that data at the beginning of the forecast process can help make that 5-day forecast more accurate. We need to know how much more we've got to deal with, but we already know the general scenario, that it's going to meander for days to come, and we've not talked for a few minutes here about the heavy rainfall, but that is still something we got to remind everybody of, that this is going to move very slowly. Even where you are, Jim, in Corpus Christi, this will meander close enough to you that it could rain for days there. Doc, have you ever seen, and I know you've been doing this a while, a rainfall forecast for Houston in the 15 to 25 inch range? Have you ever seen anything like that? No, not in my time at the Hurricane Center and communicating about these events. This is really something to be seeing rainfall totals that we are in a forecast sense. To be seeing, not just inches of rain, but feet. I mean, look, this is an incredible rainfall forecast graphic. I mean, one thing that is remarkable about it is we're talking about, here we are on a Friday night, and we're talking about how much rain is going to fall through next Wednesday. And we haven't seen colors on a Weather Channel graphic like this in a long time, where we got 30 inches, and it could exceed that in isolated spots. This really is, in many ways, an unprecedented event that is about to unfold. But still, in terms of forecasting exact amounts, where the bands are going to set up, that's really beyond our capability, isn't it? It definitely is. I mean, this gives you a general sense of what's going to happen, but the actual rainfall totals, where the bullseyes will line up, will depend on what exactly the track is, and just don't look at just the forecast track. And remember, this isn't just a point on the map; it's where the band's set up, where the training is, where things far from the circulation center might set up. You could get devastating rainfall totals 100, 200 miles away from the center of circulation. Exactly. Dr. Knabb, we appreciate that. I always appreciate your insight. Guys, stick around. Much more to come as we continue to watch the eye wall of Hurricane Harvey. The last time we had a Cat 4 on the Texas coast.
Parodontax, the toothpaste that helps prevent bleeding gums. If you spit blood when you brush or floss, you may have gum problems and could be on the journey to much worse. Help stop the journey of gum disease. Try Parodontax toothpaste.
Gentlemen, Beggin' Skinny Strips or Beggin' Black Label?
This too?
What a delicious dilemma! Beggin' Strips Premium Edition. With real meat as ingredient 1. Everything to your liking. Beggin' Strips Premium.
Because Beggin'!
Please get to the lowest level.
We have a charge. We have a responsibility.
We have live team coverage tracking.
To provide information to people to help them stay safe.
This weather is affecting people and their relatives across the country.
Our team's taking you into the storm with live reports and expertise you won't get anywhere else.
We are scientists, we are meteorologists, and that makes a tremendous difference.
When it comes to a weather situation that warrants attention, we're the place to go. It's that simple.
Currently in our area, 60 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, mainly clear, low 51. Winds light and variable. Saturday, mostly Saturday night, a mostly clear sky, low 52. Winds light and variable. Here's our 7-day outlook.
I take pictures of sunrises, but with my back pain, I couldn't sleep and get up in time. Then I found Aleve PM.
Aleve PM is the only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone.
Children's Claritin is the only brand that provides 24-hour non-drowsy allergy relief products.
Plus, it's the #1 pediatrician-recommended non-drowsy brand.
Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Constipated? Fleet Liquid Glycerin is delivered straight to the source, so it delivers constipation relief in as little as 15 minutes. Dulcolax oral tablets can take 6 hours to work. Fleet Liquid Glycerin Suppositories, the start of fast relief.
Introducing Cologuard.
I'm here for an important reason. Colon cancer screening. If you're age 50 or older and at average risk, Cologuard finds cancer and pre-cancer. And it's a non-invasive test you can use at home. In fact, I'm as easy as get, go, gone. How do you get me? Your doctor orders me, and I'm delivered directly to your doorstep. There's no need for time off or special prep because I use the DNA in your stool to find colon cancer. Then you just go. I mean, collect your sample. Then I'm gone. Just ship me to the lab. Gotta go.
Cologuard is intended for individuals at average risk for colon cancer. Cologuard is not for high-risk individuals, including those with a history of colon cancer or polyps, IBD, certain hereditary cancer syndromes, or family history of colon cancer. Cologuard, colon cancer screening that's as easy as get, go, gone. Ask your doctor if Cologuard is right for you.
You could be my love, even if the sky is falling down. I know that we'll be safe and sound.
So many Americans struggle with finances. Starting today, State Farm is here to help, giving us all the chance to simply sit down and learn. Visit letstarttoday.com or talk to an agent.
We're safe and sound.
Look, isn't that Frank Thomas?
Oh, the big hurt.
More like the big hunk.
Yeah.
Wow, Frank Thomas.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You look like you could still be playing. That's what I said.
Well, I am feeling stronger and leaner. So, Frank, what's your secret? I discovered Nugenics.
I wish my husband did.
It's easy. Just send a text.
If you're a guy over 40, text 321321 and enter the word FAN to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenics is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels, to help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, more passion, too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it, too.
Text 321321 and enter FAN to get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics. Samples are not available in stores, so text 321321 and enter FAN.
When the weather turns serious, the first thing I'm thinking is, how do I communicate the message very clearly to people so they understand what the risk is and how to get through this?
Our continuing coverage of Harvey continues tonight. Myself here in Corpus Christi. Mike Seidel, on the left goalpost, by the way. Mike Seidel is in Port Lavaca. He is the right goalpost. Our little friend Harvey is going to go right up in between as a Category 4 hurricane making landfall probably within the next hour or two here. Dr. Rick Knabb, our hurricane expert, is here, of course, watching all that for us. Our largest, I should say, highest gust right now, Port Aransas at 118 miles per hour. I'm being told that we may see another extreme wind warning come out. What that is a statement from the Weather Service that talks about winds that could gust, especially in this case, 115 to 145. We understand that is just issued. I do not believe, and I probably would think that Corpus Christi is not going to be in that, but certainly areas like Freeport and Rockport, Port O'Connor, maybe, the immediate coastline certainly will be in that. And with the eye wall coming ashore, that would certainly be expected. As a matter of fact, we could see sustained winds well over 100 miles per hour as we have a Category 4 hurricane, our first in 56 years, approaching the coast. Our coverage again, guys, of Harvey continues. We've had hurricane force gusts here in Corpus Christi, and we've had now about 11 hours of at least tropical storm force wind gusts. And those winds are going to continue probably for a good part of the night. So even though we're not in the eye wall, this thing has a heck of a wind field, and being the fact that it's strong enough, it's going to hold that wind field for a while here before it moves on shore. All right, I want to bring in our hurricane specialist, Dr. Rick Knabb, to talk about this. Dr. Knabb, if you could, okay, since I mentioned the goalposts of Mike and I, if you could say where the field goal is going to go, i.e. the eye, and making landfall, where do you think that point would be?
Yeah, Jim, I think that's going to be maybe on San Luis Island, and this is going to be the barrier island across from Rockport. And you mentioned the extreme wind warning a little bit ago. That has been, again, issued by the National Weather Service local forecast offices. This is a new capability post-Hurricane Charlie that is a shorter fuse warning than the broader hurricane warning that is intended to tell people to take final internal shelter like you would for a tornado, for the winds of a major hurricane, for major hurricane force winds. And that is now in effect in this purple area that you see here for Aransas, Calhoun, Refugio counties. That includes the cities of Aransas Pass, Ingleside, and Rockport. It does not include where Jim is in Corpus Christi, but that is because, as Jim was asking, the field goal is being kicked, as it were, by Hurricane Harvey in between Corpus Christi and Port Lavaca. That's where the center is going to be going, Jim.
Hey, Doc, I want to ask you something regarding this. Great analogy with a tornado warning, but unlike a tornado warning, this isn't going to be for 15 or 20 minutes. This is going to be much longer. And could we see a scenario where, as they go through the eye and then get on the backside, we see another extreme wind warning, but winds from the other direction?
That is entirely possible if the anticipation is that major hurricane force winds are going to extend beyond 11:45 p.m. Central Time. That's the current extent time period wise for the current extreme wind warning, but these hurricanes don't always continue to move as fast as we anticipate, especially near landfall. They can wobble, they can stop and then start again. So these short fuse warnings are to alert people to take shelter or to continue to take shelter from major hurricane force winds. So they'll keep issuing these as long as those conditions are still anticipated.
And if you are sheltering at home, guys, and you do get into that eye where it is eerily calm, don't forget, please don't forget that you will deal with the backside of that storm. Whether it's as strong or not, you're still going to deal with the backside of the storm. Earlier today, again, Governor Abbott asking the president for a disaster declaration. We understand that has been signed by the president. He's got 30 counties in that. We could see more or less added to that, depending on how this whole thing shakes out. But President Trump has signed a disaster declaration for the state of Texas for Governor Abbott. All right, let's go up north into Mike Bettis. Mike, I was thinking earlier, especially given this wild track, Mike is in Galveston, by the way, I'm wondering if especially if this kind of holds together and maybe bumps up a little bit if it goes over the water, that you may have to wait a couple of days before you may see the worst weather with this. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible, Jim. I know you know this is going to make a landfall tonight, and even though we're 150 miles from the center, and maybe the worst of the storm is not hitting us, and that's perfectly okay, there may be still a disaster in the making days from now. Now, right now, we're getting hammered with a thunderstorm. All day long, we've had these outer bands hit us, and in fact, we're still under a tornado watch here until 2 o'clock tonight. We've had 3 different tornado warnings issued in Galveston today. So take that threat very, very seriously. And then on top of that, you're going to have opportunity for some of these thunderstorms to bring in some high winds, and you may knock out some power in some instances. So be prepared to lose power this evening with these winds that blow in tonight. Make sure that you've got flashlights ready to go. Everything's already plugged in and charged up so that you've got your cell phone ready to go. You've got laptops ready to go. And if you're running a generator tonight, make sure that you've got gas for it and that it's outside. Don't run that generator in your carport or in your garage. Make sure it's outside. Make sure it's properly vented. We are getting hammered right now with a thunderstorm that may be one of the strongest we've had so far today. The rainfall rates with some of these thunderstorms have been pretty incredible, upwards of 2 inches an hour. Now, they're not sticking around for that amount of time. A lot of these thunderstorms in these outer bands are quick movers because they're moving 40, 50 miles an hour. So if you have a tornado embedded within one of those thunderstorms, it's going to move fast. It's going to be rain wrapped. You're not going to see it. It's dark now. There's no way it's going to be detected by anything other than a Doppler radar. So be prepared. I would say especially if you live to the right of the eye tonight. So if you live in Galveston, if you live in Houston, if you live in Surfside, you live in Lake Jackson, these are all areas where you do run that risk of tornadoes, and be prepared to take shelter. Lowest level of your home, interior room, put walls between you and the danger, okay? And then when you have heavy rain like this, and we already saw it today here in Galveston,
Did we lose Mike, guys? Did we lose Mike with rain fade? Okay, guys, the reason why we lost Mike is rain fade. It's raining so hard where he is that the signal can't get up through the rain. It's blocking the signal. It's dispersing it as opposed to keeping it solid to get up to the satellite. So Mike is obviously in very, very heavy rain right now, heavier than even what I'm seeing here in Corpus Christi. So all that is the front side of the system. We are on the back side again, as the center is to our north, between myself and Mike Seidel in Port Lavaca. Stick around too later on tonight. Reynolds Wolf is in Victoria, and so he may actually deal with, I think he will deal with the eye wall and maybe even the eye itself, depending on where this is going to track as we go on in time. Just got new word. Catherine Prosit tells me Port Aransas gusting to 120 miles per hour now. All right, so we've easily had here well into the Cat 3 range in terms of the gusts as this thing is coming ashore. Again, a Category 4 hurricane moving ashore as we speak. Dr. Knapp, I want to talk to you a little bit about this thing in terms of where it goes once it hits the barrier island. Does Victoria have a chance to deal with a long period of these very strong hurricane force winds? Maybe not 120, but certainly the fact that as it goes north, it will slow down even further, right?
Yes, we've been talking for a couple days now how about this is not going to be just a coastal event. And because you've got such a strong hurricane coming ashore, hurricane force winds are going to penetrate well inland. It's not just going to be at the beach. And so here's the center of the hurricane just offshore from Rockport, and it's going to be making landfall soon. And if you look at the areas to the right of the landfall and propagate that inland, Port O'Connor, Port Lavaca, Victoria are going to be on the dirty side, on the stronger side of the hurricane. They're getting gusts already in Victoria up to 52 miles per hour. That's just a taste of things to come, because this is going to be coming inland, and their winds will increase as the night goes on. And you could get stronger winds in some places inland that are on the stronger side than some coastal places are getting that are on the weaker side, Jim.
Dr. Knapp, I was just asking Catherine about what's, I wanted to look at some of these bigger cities because I haven't had just look at the radar that far inland. What's happening right now in like San Antonio, in Austin, in Houston? The same band that Mike's getting, especially given the way it's moving, could that come into Houston, or is it staying to their south?
Yeah, I'm taking the wide shot of Harvey right now with the 9 p.m. Central Time particulars, with the center still just offshore. Look at what is happening up to the north and east, far away from the eye of Harvey. Some really strong rain bands coming in south of Houston, and there's that band that is bringing the very heavy rain locally to Galveston, where you saw from Mike Bettis earlier. And now you're getting the northern extent of the rain shield extending up into the hill country towards San Antonio and Austin. And you might be thinking in places in between Port Lavaca and Houston that are relatively dry at the moment, that, oh, okay, this isn't so bad, but you're just in kind of a moat in between some of the bands. Your dry weather is not going to stay that way, and sometimes you'll get some really nasty bands far away from the center, then it gets dry for a little while, then the bands are going to come back. So don't go out driving on the roads when you have these intermittent breaks in the bands. Mike?
Right. Dr. Knapp, I'm going to take it from here. Let's go. We're going to go up to Mike's Hill right now in Port Lavaca. Again, as I've been telling you about, on the left goalpost, Mike's on the right side. That's where, of course, the hurricane is right in the middle of all this. Mike's winds are on. He's dealing with a lot more problems with the water. Mike, what have you seen in terms of water rise? I know it's nightfall now, but can you tell the water is still coming up where you are?
Yes, it's still coming up. It is hard to see, but the parking lot continues to fill up here. We're going to go around back eventually and see how the water's risen on the back side of the hotel. That's the side closest to Port Lavaca or the Lavaca Bay. And I emphasize we're 25 miles or so as the crow flies from the Gulf, and for Port O'Connor, another town that's going to get raked pretty good. Not that it already hasn't. And we're also talking out the Port Aransas area, all of Aransas County, San Patricio County. Those are the two counties north of Corpus Christi, which is Nueces County, and then inland. Reynolds Wolf will be on the Weather Channel all night tonight from Victoria, Texas, and that's 30 miles from where we are. And we're 20 miles from the 25 miles in from the barrier island. So we're talking 55 miles plus or minus in Victoria. Reynolds is going to be on all night. He actually may not only take the eye wall, maybe the eye of Hurricane Harvey. And this thing is slowing down. So the story is going to be, how long does this water stay up as we go through tonight and tomorrow? Because, as you know, we've been talking about it for a couple of days. This is going to slow down, and it's not going to just wind down. It's going to take days, and it may actually come back over the Gulf and re-intensify and come back at us the middle of next week. We hope the models are wrong, but we have to prepare for the worst. Even if that doesn't happen, we're still going to have catastrophic amounts of rainfall. There goes a pretty good gust. That'll blow you off your feet. And with that rainfall coming into the river basins like the Nueces River, that's all going to have to run downstream at some point back here into the Gulf of Mexico. So a whole litany of problems inland once we get the winds to go away. And I've mentioned this before, we're going to have widespread power outages. Our power is still on here, thank goodness. We'll see how that lasts. Hopefully nobody loses power where you are. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But, you know, the power crews are in position, and they can't get up in the bucket trucks and get things back on if they have to go up. Not until the winds die down, and these winds are just not going to go away like in a typical hurricane or tropical storm that comes up the coast, comes in and goes away, either goes in and dissipates due to friction, or goes out to sea off the, say, the Outer Banks, like we saw last year with Matthew. So this is a long-term event, Jim, as you know, and we are really getting battered down here with this wind right now. These sustained winds are running in the 40s, and we've gusted upwards of 60 or so. And as you know, based on the radar, we still have a long way to go. We may actually take the far eastern edge of the eye wall of Harvey later on tonight and early on Saturday morning. Jim, we'll throw it back to you in Corpus. And hang on, buddy.
What's interesting, Mike, is it's going to be interesting to see how long that you take the tropical storm force gusts. We're on, I believe, hour 11 now of the gusts here. The difference is we're getting the wind from a different direction. You're going to get it off the water, so you actually have a better chance of having them be a little bit longer, especially with a hurricane that's coming inland, slowing down a little bit and kind of keeping you on that right side. So Mike is in for a prolonged period of at least tropical storm force gust there where he is at Port Lavaca. Again, guys, if you're just joining us, Port Aransas really taking it right now with the eye wall, 120 miles per hour from our last report that we have for you. And this is now about an hour's worth of gusts that they've had, at least over 100 miles per hour. So tremendous wind energy working its way into the Port Aransas area. Places like Rockport, as get to the far outer band of this is dealing with some very heavy thunderstorms. Like this, a while ago in Galveston, because of the rain fade, it's coming down so hard. I would think.
Yeah, Jim, you know, it's amazing when those thunderstorms come in, just how nasty the weather gets, and it goes down in a hurry, right? But they don't last that long. A lot of those thunderstorms are little clusters, lines of clusters, okay? Just think of it that way. They last for 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and then they're gone. But embedded within some of those thunderstorms, you can end up getting the possibility of some tornadoes. And actually, even off in the distance, where there's been a longer line of storms just to our south, we've seen lightning with a lot of these thunderstorm bands. So don't be fooled into thinking, okay, we're done here in Galveston. The eye is well to our south. We have no risk here. We certainly do have a risk in Galveston. You don't want to be outside, you know, maybe thinking, okay, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to check things out, and next thing you know, you've got a big thunderstorm with 60 or 70 mile-an-hour winds that's throwing debris in the air, or it's knocking down trees. Be prepared that tonight you might end up losing power because of some of these thunderstorms, and they could even have tornadoes, and we have a tornado watch in effect. Remember, things that you might need tonight. Don't forget the flashlight, okay? You're gonna need one of these, multiple flashlights. If you can, put one on every level of your home. Make sure everything's charged up and plugged in right now if you have power, so everything's good to go in case the juice goes out for you tonight. And if you're running that generator, just be good about that, okay? No carports, don't put it in the garage. It's gotta be outside and well ventilated so that you're not getting those fumes and that exhaust into your home and suffering carbon monoxide poisoning, because that's not how we want this to go, all right? We want everyone to be safe when it comes to this hurricane. Winds have actually been very steady this afternoon for the last several hours. It's actually with my anemometer here. They've been steady over 30 miles an hour, but measured against as high as 52. And I want to take you back out here, by the way, to Seawall. This is the road that is right before the seawall, okay? Come on out here. We've got a beautiful hotel, by the way, that keeps us well sheltered from the storm. The St. Louis Resort is it goes way up, by the way, and so there's no chance that you're going to get storm surge there. But keep in mind, on the other side of the road there is the Gulf of Mexico, okay? And it drops straight down to the seawall, okay? So they built a big seawall after the 1900 hurricane to protect the city, and the city's actually elevated about 15 feet or so from that seawall. And so the water's just now coming to the bottom of that seawall, okay? And I'll hold up my anemometer. I want you to check the top number on that, all right? That's the wind right now. It's going pretty good right now. There's about 36. So, you know, sometimes you're going to get these gusts that are going to be pretty tough. So just be prepared for that tonight, because there'll be opportunities for power outages. Tornado watch until 2 o'clock. All right? So make sure to get alerted. If you have your phone, turn on the alerts, because you'll get the automatic tornado alerts on your phone. It's a new government service. Or you can subscribe to a lot of different apps. Many apps that are free. The Weather Channel app will do it. The Weather Underground app will do it for you. The Red Cross app will alert you to tornadoes. Or if you got a weather radio, use that as well. Put it in alert mode, go to bed. It'll beep and alert you. Actually be a very loud siren when that tornado warning is issued. So Jim, you know, again, the thing about it is don't in Galveston think it's over for you, okay? Because this is making landfall tonight. We've got days and days and days to go. We think at minimum a foot of rain is coming our way, and the flooding is just going to begin.
Yeah, buddy, you're in it for the long haul. It doesn't help getting those heavy thunderstorms. Certainly, that just gets everything wet, gets any kind of waterway full of water already. All right, guys. So breaking news now. We do have reports out of Port Aransas of 125 mile per hour gusts. 125 mile per hour gusts in Port Aransas. They are taking the eye wall, the left eye wall. It is moving toward them now. The Hurricane Center expects landfall within an hour. All right. You can bet with 125 mile per hour winds, there is strong. I mean, they've been now with over 100 with gusts for an hour, or at least an hour. So that's tremendous wind energy, and you can bet there's structural damage that's going to occur with that. Lots of problems here, guys. Rockport, right in that same area. Thank goodness for that mandatory evacuation, and I hope everybody heeded that, because it is going to be one heck of a scary night. Again, just to kind of recap for you here, guys, we are watching Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4 hurricane, work its way onshore, perhaps within an hour, making landfall somewhere near the Rockport area. We don't know Port Aransas. Let's get an idea of where we think this is going. Dr. Knapp, in terms of the speed, do you see this slowing even more so now that it's approaching the coast?
Well, it's often difficult to anticipate landfalling hurricanes, whether or not they're going to maintain a constant forward speed. Sometimes they start and stop and wobble a bit, but it has been making a pretty steady northwestward motion.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, and so the hurricane has been making a pretty steady forward motion, and with the landfall of the center not yet having happened, we've had already the northwestern eye wall onshore. And you can see we've got our guys up and down the coastline, Jim Cantori down there in Corpus Christi, and Mike Seidel here in Port Lavaca, and Mike Bettis up in Galveston. And so you three guys are experiencing three very different parts of the hurricane. Mike Bettis has been getting those outer bands, the tornado warnings, the intermittent downbursts, and then Mike is on the stronger side of the hurricane where the water rise is going to continue to increase, and then Jim Cantori in Corpus Christi is on the weaker side but still getting tropical storm conditions. And all of you are going to be getting heavy rainfall for days to come, some of you off and on, but in Port Lavaca, that's the area where Mike Seidel is, that is the area of greatest concern, because that is going to be an area of onshore flow, and then we've got the area kind of in between Mike Seidel and Jim Cantori that are under the extreme wind warning, as the eye wall has already come on shore and the eye itself about to make landfall. So we will continue providing you coverage here on the Weather Channel as Harvey gets closer to landfall.
Clear?
Okay, so the eye wall is moving onshore. Harvey's center hasn't yet quite crossed the coastline, but it is about to do so. But again, the weather has already become bad. The center of the hurricane is not always the center of action, and there's a lot of bad weather happening at the coast and inland for dozens to hundreds of miles away from the center of circulation. So let's kind of recap what the major hazards are and where they are occurring. First of all, with a landfalling major hurricane, the major hurricane force winds are already impacting land. There already is an extreme wind warning in effect issued by the local National Weather Service Forecast Office. This is different from the hurricane warning that was issued by the Hurricane Center in collaboration with the local offices a day and a half ago. To highlight the overall areas that could receive hurricane force winds. The purpose of the extreme wind warning is to tell people where you could get major hurricane force winds, and the action is similar to taking shelter from a tornado. It's to take your final, best, safest shelter, the most interior part of a structure, because winds of major hurricane strength, Category 3 or stronger, are anticipated in these areas, and it includes the counties of Aransas, Calhoun, and Refugio, cities Aransas, Pass, Ingleside, and Rockport. And again, Rockport is right here on the opposite side of the bay from the outer barrier islands. And so these major hurricane force winds are not just impacting the beach. This is not just an immediate coastal event. Now, obviously, on the right side of the hurricane, that's where the strongest onshore flow is occurring. So you're getting the stronger winds on that right-hand side, and we're already seeing both near the coast and farther inland very strong winds, sustained winds of tropical storm force, gusts much higher than that. So, for example, where Mike Seidel is in Port Lavaca on the right-hand side of the storm and inland by several miles from the immediate Gulf Coast, he's been getting gusts near 50 miles per hour and some very heavy rain, and that's on the way up. So, Mike Seidel, what are you experiencing? Has it been getting worse where you are?
It has, Dr. Knapp, and I've been checking the ob at the nearby airport, and it's still not reporting gusts a few minutes ago more than about 50 miles an hour. I know we've had gusts higher than that. It's been unrelenting now for the past hour, not only the wind but the rain, and you can see the surge and the water rise through the parking lot here at the Holiday Inn Express. Looking out on Texas Route 35, things are fine. It's certainly the water hasn't come up high enough yet, and it's even higher than where we're standing in the hotel parking lot. So far so good on 35. But again, we're going to have onshore flow for hours, and we haven't gotten the worst of the wind and the water rise. The big question is, how long does the water stay up tomorrow and tomorrow night? This is not a typical hurricane where it comes in and goes by and the sun comes out and the wind goes offshore. Now, with that said, the good news to note tonight in Corpus Christi is the wind is offshore where Jim Cantori is, so that certainly helps out on the water rise. They won't have the water rise certainly to the left of where the center comes on shore, but you can feel the wind. Can you hear it at home? It's just roaring through here. I am not, by the way, I am not between two buildings. This is the real deal. This is not fake wind. This is real. We're not getting the channeling effect between buildings, the canyon effect like you see in big cities like New York on a windy day. This is the wind coming right off Lavaca Bay. The whole front part of the hotel, or I should say the back of the hotel on the bay, that whole area is underwater. We're going to go back there at some point and see how much the water's come up, but that was all dry earlier, and there's about a 6 to 8 foot seawall, and that is already underwater. So it gives you an idea of how high the water's come up so far with the approach of Hurricane Harvey. This whole town has pretty much evacuated to higher ground. The official elevation here in Port Lavaca is 16 feet, and as I've been noting for a couple of days, Dr. Knapp mentioned it, we're about 25 miles directly inland from the Gulf. So we're not on the Gulf, we're not at a barrier island, thank goodness. We knew better than that. We got to be safety first, and we're very safe here in this hotel. It's well constructed. It was built 6 years ago, and we're on higher ground. But we knew better than to be out at Aransas on Aransas County's beaches. Aransas Pass, that area, even